Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Taco Society Presents, episode 50.
That's right.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you think about it. Isn't it?
It's a milestone, yeah.
Yeah.
Sydney's not here with us tonight, as you can see. She's had some medical appointments she had to attend to, but she should be back with us next month. And when she is back next month, we've got a few 50-show surprises that we want to talk about and have fun with, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be. Well, you were just moving that to the 51st.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll have a retrospect of the first 50.
Oh my God, that's a great
Yeah.
idea. A good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have a show last month, mostly because of me. I was just so busy I didn't get a chance to get it together to have a show, but a lot has happened in 2 months. I mean, it's amazing how time flies, but the big thing that happened was StokerCon in Providence, Rhode Island. That was a lot of fun, and what StokerCon is, it's a gathering, official gathering of all the horror writers and genre writers, and all over the country, not just New England, but all over the country. And we all gather and they present awards, and we have panels and we talk about horror. But the best part, obviously, is just getting together and seeing each other and having a lot of fun. But the big news at StokerCon was, guess who won for the superior achievement in novel? That's like the best novel in horror. Guess who won?
Yeah, I'll let you announce it, but I saw it all online.
Isn't that cool? Yeah.
Yeah, local, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chris Golden for Ararat. Chris is a friend of the show. He's been on many times. I think he was on the last show that we had.
Yeah. I unfortunately missed them that time, but yeah, because of the snowstorm. My wife had an appointment, and it was moved because of the snowstorm, and it fell on the same day as Taco Society. I had to watch the kids.
Life intervenes, doesn't it?
Indeed.
Jeez. But congratulations again to Chris. The only other thing I'll say about it is I was there when he won the award, and if you could have seen his face, you'd have melted. He was having, you couldn't believe it for one thing, but he was so proud, and we were all proud of him.
Yeah, and I like this post on Facebook, and his thoughts and so forth on winning the award. So.
Speaking of Chris, he and Tim Lemon have a new book out called Blood of the Four. It's been out, I want to say, maybe a month now. It's been getting rave reviews.
Maybe even less.
Maybe even less, yeah. I got to read it before it was released. He said, Tony, I go, what? He gives me an ARC, which is an advanced reading copy, and I was just tickled pink. I just loved it, and I read it. It's a great story, and I'm not a big one on fantasy. This is medieval fantasy. I guess the official term is grimdark. I'm not quite sure.
Is it alternate world, or takes place in the real world?
Yeah, it takes place in the real world, but a lot of magic is involved. In Blood of the Four, even though it's fantasy, there's a lot of horror. I mean, there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of violence. It's just the kind of book that horror fans would love.
What type of, what part of the world does it take place in?
You had to ask me that, huh?
Well,
it's a made-up part of the world. It's not.
Okay, no, but what continent, I should say?
It's European, but I couldn't tell you which one.
Right.
Because I don't quite know where he thinks he said it, but and if it's in the book, I forgot. But it's certainly worth the read. It's fantastic. And there's sex in it too. If you're a big fan of sex in your fantasy, that's another draw. But it's a great book. You really like it. And speaking of books, another friend of the show, Peter Dudar, The Goat Parade. Came out.
Yes, I saw that, yeah.
And that's also been getting some really good reviews, and Peter's been on the show. He was with L.L. Soares not too long ago.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. And if you look at the cover, you'll see my name on it. I gave him a blurb for the book.
I saw that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I think horror fans will also enjoy it. I won't go too much into it, but it's a contemporary horror tale about a dad and his boy, and an evil man that they come in contact with, who does some terrible things. But it's a great horror book, and I think you really would like it. Another friend of the show, Greg Norris. He completed his 1,300th story today.
They had a big party last night up in Berlin, New Hampshire. The folks had a nice cake for him and all that. Yeah. I unfortunately was unable to attend because of work, because it's 2 hours just to get there. But they put photos on Facebook, and it looked like they had a blast.
Wasn't it? Is that, it's hard to wrap your head around 1,300
Yeah,
works of fiction.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, and that includes TV scripts
Yep, yep.
and all short
Articles,
stories.
everything,
Yeah.
short stories, poems, and
Yeah, and I think he's got a
novellas.
novel in that also.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, yeah, I know he has a couple of novellas for sure.
No novellas, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking about friends of the show, Sherry White. She was on when I was down in Virginia. She has a brand new release out of short stories called Sacrificial Lambs. I love Sherry's work. It's from a very feminine perspective. It's horror. I mean, it's really visceral horror. It just really gets to you. But if you like Sandy DeLuca's work, she's the only one I can think to compare it to right now. It's a lot like that. But congratulations to Sherry on her new release. And that's with Crossroad Press, who also happens to be my publisher for short stories.
Yeah, your anthology.
So it's nice to
Or
have
collection, I'm sorry.
collection. Yeah, it's nice to have Sherry as a label mate. And speaking of me, I've got a new website out.
Yeah, I saw that. I checked it out.
It was put together by Matt Bechtel, who did a great job.
He did.
And when we talked about what we should do for the site, we wanted it very, very simple. We wanted it easy to navigate. I'm not going to get on there and put a lot of blogs or my thoughts down on it. It's mostly a little bit about me and where to get my books. But if you're looking to find out a little bit more about me, check out Tony Tremblay author.com. And the reason it says Tony Tremblay author is, you know how many Tony Tremblays there are? It turns out to be, it's like 100 of them. And I had to differentiate myself from the other ones, plus all the other Tony Tremblays were taken. So this seemed to be the easiest domain name to grab, and people would know it was me. A couple other little things. F. Paul Wilson, Repairman Jack.
Oh, yeah, I have all those books. Yeah.
He started a new one. Remember he ended it with Night World?
Yep.
Well, he just started a new one. So Repairman Jack fans all over the country are rejoicing. It's a great series of books.
Yeah, it's basically like a paranormal investigator, basically.
It is, yeah.
With a more action and thriller.
A lot more action, yeah. And it is horror, but you're right. There's a lot of action. He's undercover. I shouldn't say undercover. He's off the grid.
Right.
He has no social security number. He has no job, but he's got money. He's got a place to live, and he's got a girlfriend. And he takes jobs from people, and that's how he makes his money. And the jobs usually involve paranormal activity.
Yep.
That's a great series of books.
Yeah, there was only one of the novels that wasn't paranormal. It was science fiction, space alien stuff.
Of those novels?
Out of his novels, yeah.
I can't remember which one that was.
Yeah, it was like the fifth one, but I forget the name of it. Yeah.
Just sticking on horror for a little bit. The Terror, Dan Simon's The Terror.
Yeah, it's
TV.
on AMC now, right?
Yeah, TV series. I haven't seen it, but the advance word is it's really good.
Yep, yeah. And you can actually watch the whole thing. They dropped it the whole season. So folks who want to go to the AMC movie app, they can do that and they can watch it.
They can see everything.
Yeah. As long as they have subscription.
That's kind of cool. We'll just go over a few more things. I can never say his name. I want to say Darcy Stoker, who's Bram Stoker's great-grandson, I believe. He wrote Dracula, Bram Stoker. And Darcy wrote a book about Dracula, but now he's got a new one coming out, which is a prequel to Dracula. And this book was taken from the notes that his great-great-grandfather wrote in journals. So I guess Bram Stoker was actually going to write this and had all these notes and ideas down, but never got a chance to, or he did and it was lost. And Darcy Stoker's going to write it. He's writing it with somebody called J.D. Baker. So that's something to look forward to. NoCon, which is the convention that we're going to have September 15th, has, I think I've spoken about it, but that's still on. That's with myself, John McElveen, and Scott Goswald. We've got 2 seminars now for that. We've got Bracken McLeod and Doug Wynn presenting one seminar, and we've got Christopher Golden and James A. Moore presenting another one. So it's really building up to be something that's going to be, I think, more than a lot of fun. It could wind up being a yearly thing.
Yeah, and a lot of folks who, if anybody wanted to go to it, many of the people that will be attending have been guests of this show.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yep.
so.
And we'll have more information on that, but it's in Manchester, New Hampshire. It'll be at the La Quinta Inn, right in the Yemaskig Circle if you're in Goffstown and you're watching this. And again, we'll have more information on that. Speaking of John McElveen, he and I appeared on cable access in Derry, New Hampshire for our What Lurks in the Fog tour, which is a book that we were kind of writing and kind of pushed off because we're both so busy. So we call it our What Lurks in the Fog 2025 tour. And we'll be hitting different venues and promoting ourselves basically and kind of joking about the book. And I've got one last thing before I ask you if you got anything. Non-horror, but Neil Young's got 2 new albums coming out next month. He's got an album called Paradox, which is a soundtrack to the movie that's on Netflix now. And he's also got another one coming out called Roxy Live, which is, if you know Neil Young, he had an album called Tonight's the Night. And Roxy Live is that entire album performed live back in 1976. So it's a classic album, and Neil Young fans, like myself, are just all agog. We can't wait for that to come out.
Nice. And so the recording of the live show was from back then, or is it?
No, it's back then, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
So they went to some source tapes that they had.
Yep.
Okay, similar
Yep.
to what the Doors
Yep.
have been doing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Neil's put out a lot of live
Grateful
albums.
Dead, a lot of
Yep.
folks have been doing that. Yeah.
Yep. I think that's all I got. The only other thing, I got a funny story about Scotch glasses. I broke a Scotch glass. My wife broke a Scotch. My favorite Scotch glass, she chipped. She broke, and I was like devastated. And I went on Facebook, and I told everybody, "Oh, my wife broke my Scotch glass. I don't know what to do." And people said, "Well, drink it straight from the bottle." And I said, "Well, all right." So I started drinking the Scotch straight from the bottle, and the next thing I know, I'm getting all these Scotch glasses in the mail. I got, I think, I want to say 14 Scotch glasses in the mail from people on Facebook. And they're great glasses. I mean, they're wonderful glasses, and I'm just absolutely stunned. So I did manage to say thank you to all the people that sent me a Scotch glass. But if you're watching the show, I want to thank you again. It was totally unexpected, but it was delightful.
I like, you posted a lot of pictures of them, and
Yeah.
I like Gams the best. That was
a Neil Young quote, yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
It was
yeah.
Long May You Run. Yeah. So, I was very happy with that. It was a great one, and that was a lot of fun. Again, thank you, friends, fans, acquaintances. My wife says no more Scotch glasses, though, okay? We got plenty. So thank you.
Yeah, what some people are saying, you have one
for
every day
day
of the week,
yeah.
but now it's more than
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah, there you go.
I only drink Scotch on weekends, so those will last for a while.
Right.
How about you? You got anything?
Just one thing. Basically, the release date of anthology that I'm in finally has been determined, and it will be April 27th. It's called Chud Lives.
After the movie.
After the movie,
Yeah.
CHUD.
What does it stand for, Chud?
Well, it stands for 2 things. It stands for cannibal humanoid
Urban dweller. Right?
urban dwellers. Yeah, and then the other one is the code name in the movie. So it's
okay.
meaning, it sounds something that isn't as
Fun.
right, exactly. And I forget what that is, so my story is in there. It's called The Deuce, after Times Square. So it actually just a coincidence that the show came out. I wrote the story before that show came out on HBO. But a lot of good authors are in it. You mentioned Flaherty and Jonathan Mayberry's in it, and so forth. David Bernstein, a lot of good folks.
Oh yeah, Dave's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
And this is about monsters that live in the sewers.
Yeah. Basically, folk who've maybe homeless folk and so forth that there was a nuclear waste down there, and it turns into cannibal
Yeah.
type people. You know.
The movie was a lot of fun, so I expect the book to be just as fun.
Yeah, that was the only one problem was that it took about a year to get it to finally the release date because of some interesting things that can't be talked about yet. But unfortunately, during that time, the director, the man who created the franchise, passed away.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, so he didn't get to see
see
the.
it.
Yeah, he had. I think he had advanced reader copies and all that, but he didn't actually get to see the final
release,
release.
yeah.
So.
Okay. That it?
Yeah, that's all I got. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've got a special guest tonight for our 50th show, Mary Hart. And she's written a book called Some Horrific Evening, and we'll be talking to her in a minute. All set?
Very good.
Okay, we're going to welcome Mary. Thank you. Back in a second. And we're back with our guest, Mary Hart. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, guys, for having me. And happy 50th episode. That's
Well,
pretty
thank
cool.
you.
I'm honored.
Well, happy birthday to you. Your birthday's
gosh.
tomorrow, right?
Yes, it is.
Oh, wow.
30...
Totally 30, yes. Let's go with that, sure.
Okay, another 32 years. Okay, well...
Exactly. Well, considering that last year I turned 45, but for some reason I kept saying I was 46 most of the year.
So you made
tomorrow,
yourself older?
Exactly. I don't know.
So you're
Most
46 for
people
2 years in a
don't
row.
do that.
No, they don't. I guess.
So presumably I'll be completely fine with turning 46 tomorrow because I'm used to it.
How do you forget how old you are?
I don't know. And my son is 15, so, and I had him when I was 30.
Okay.
So I should be able to just add 30 onto
yeah,
his
yeah,
current age,
yeah.
which
And-
would make me
yeah.
45 then. But yeah, no, I was 46. I don't know why I wanted to speed up time, but I did.
Yeah, usually it's the opposite. Women go the other way.
Yeah,
Well, I
absolutely.
think all of us want to go.
Oh, no, okay, yeah, I shouldn't have been sexist when I said that. Mary is, she's a writer of paranormal romance. She lives in Methuen, Mass.
Yes.
And I'm gonna read your bio, but I'm gonna just add, I think I first met you, Mary goes to a lot of the book readings and functions that the horror writers of New England put on. I'm gonna say, I think I met you about 8 months ago?
Around there,
Yeah.
yeah. It was either at one or Chris or Jim's events,
One
or
of the
at
events.
Nikon, or at something. No, it was at Nikon.
Oh,
I
was
first
it?
met you at Nikon
Ah.
because you were the third person I met there. Because I went in, I met Eric, I met the person who was working behind the table,
Uh-huh.
and then you took a photo
Of you.
Exactly, and a legend was born.
And a book was born.
Exactly.
Well, Mary E. Hart, you'll have to tell us what the E stands for.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. Mary Elizabeth Hart grew up with her nose constantly in a book. She currently lives in Massachusetts, Methuen, with her husband and son. When she isn't writing away, editing away, or reading, or a combination of all of those, she can be found creating and playing wrestling figure matches with her son, and playing basketball, from what I
Yes,
understand.
we played basketball today.
Yeah. Some Horrific Evening is her first novel. Again, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you
Thanks.
know what? If you want to communicate with Mary or see what she's all about, you can go to www.maryehart.com.
Mary E. H. Hart.
Mary E. H. Hart. Oh,
yeah,
that's
because
two
it's
H's.
there's two H's because Mary E. Hart, as Tony Tremblay, doesn't exist. It exists, but someone else has it.
Someone else stole
so
it.
I went with my middle initial and my maiden name of Harrington. So Mary E. H.
Harrington Hart,
Hart.com. Yep.
It's always a story.
Of course there is. For websites, there were so many stories, yes.
Oh.
We won't talk about the story of when I tried to find one for my son's website and found out it was a site Adam Hart. Just don't Google that.
Don't do
it's
that?
not a good idea. You won't like what's going to come up.
Okay. You going to start us off?
Yeah, well, we just heard your bio, but it was a little static. We want something more dynamic about you. Why don't you let us know more about yourself?
Sure. I basically have been writing all my life. I wrote a lot during college, angsty poems here and there, and then wrote for the Stonehill College newspaper as well, doing a lot of articles and editing for them. And then went into the computer science reference book publishing world and was their
geez.
editorial assistant. And this is dating me, but I already said my age on the show, so hey guys. When I started there, I hadn't even touched a computer because we didn't have computers back in college. They were just starting.
You're not that
right?
old.
I
Oh, come
am. I
on.
graduated in '94, Tony. And that was in the computer lab. That was well away.
Wow.
The English majors didn't have any reason to go there. We had word processors to write our 90,000 page papers on the analysis of Shakespeare. So I had never touched a computer, and somehow I got hired as the editorial assistant. And within 6 months, I was the person who everyone went to for how they could research things online.
You were the
or-
expert, yeah.
Exactly. Or should they open that email? And 9 times out of 10, the answer to that was, oh no, please delete that
Well,
right
it
now.
Almost sounds
sure.
like a
Don't click
library
on that.
science
Yeah.
It was-
degree, actually.
I would
Yeah.
also guess that it was too late when they asked you. if
Yo,
they
it
should open
probably was. Yeah, they probably said, should I have opened
Yeah.
that? The answer was, look at what's done to your computer, guys. No. So I learned a lot about computer science within 5 months of being there, and moved up the ranks, and was, having people bring on us authors of their own. Then went on to writing, wrote for the Boston Globe for a while, wrote for the Eagle Tribune as a freelance writer for them in topics that range the gamut from weddings to healthcare to home heating systems to education.
We were talking earlier, and you said your home heating system freelance article led you to save quite a bit of money when yours broke
Yes,
down.
I did. When
Yeah.
I broke down right after I wrote that, and because of what I learned from that article, I was able to take $1,000 off their price.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
is.
it's
That's
kind of
quite a
scary
payday.
though that it would have been 1,000 more had I not written that. Let's just not talk about that because that's terrifying.
Well, let's talk about paranormal romance.
Yes, let's.
I've heard, and I don't know a lot about paranormal romances. I think I said this is only the second one I've ever read. But from what I do know, I know from Sandy Bixler, who's the other person that wrote paranormal romance novel that I read, they should always have a happy ending. Excuse me. And is that the case in One Horrific Evening? Is a happy ending important to you?
Well, you said you didn't want spoilers, so I'm not going to spoil
Don't
it for
spoil
you.
it, no.
You haven't quite finished it yet. You're close, I know. But yeah, it has to have a happy ending. I mean, there's some sad endings that are part of it that lead to the happy ending. I think that's important, is that you have something that wraps up on a note that leaves people feeling positive about the future.
And that's part of the genre. I mean,
Yes.
when you read a paranormal romance, you expect it to have
Just
a
by
happy
default, for any romance, you expect to have,
Good
the
point.
common trope of boy meets girl. There's some kind of incident that keeps them away from each other. They then, at the end, find their way back to each other and live happily ever after.
Okay.
Now, since even though this is a paranormal romance,
Yeah.
this I guess applies to all romances. There's conflict, meaning people get together, they break
Yes.
up, they may get back together and whatnot. Is this true for your novel?
Oh, absolutely it is, yes. There's again, not to spoil anything, but there's 2 romances, and one of them ends badly because it's an on and off relationship that the main character, Maura, has to get through in order to then be with the person she's supposed to be with. So there's that conflict there of this other guy who's a complete jerk, and we just don't want him with her, and people love the fact that, he's there as a character, as the kind of conflict to keep them apart. So yeah, there definitely has to be that conflict. And then there's the whole trying to survive in the house and not get murdered concept. So, that's kind of important too.
Yeah.
A little bit of conflict there.
One thing I noticed while reading your novel is there is an abundance of detail. I mean, you go
yeah.
down to
Oh,
the
yeah.
minutia
Yes.
on some of these things. You go into, for instance, serious explanations of what clothes women are wearing. I mean, right down to the
The brand of the
brand.
jeans.
Yeah, exactly. In the setups that Maura,
Yeah.
who happens to be, well, you can explain what Maura does.
Sure.
Is that also important in a paranormal
It's important. I
romance?
don't think it's important so much in a paranormal romance in general. It's important to me because when I'm reading something, I love to be able to picture it in my head. I love to picture the story. And especially in Maura's world, she's an event planner, so she plans weddings. And so I worked for New England Bride magazine for a while, and I used to write lots and lots of articles about food. So that's where all the menu came from, the menu idea that was very detailed for one of the parties that she's planning and her ideas. So
Well,
I
think
like to be able to picture that.
Every party she planned, you went
Yes.
into
Oh,
detail.
exactly. Yes. I do love just being able to give that atmosphere so that people are able to envision it fully in their head and be able to picture it like a movie in front of them so they can take a look and see what's there.
You certainly can. I'm not used to that level of detail.
Yeah.
In horror, you try to actually go the opposite way. You let the imagination take
Right.
over.
Yeah.
So I won't. I just found it different.
No,
when
that
was
makes. I
reading
think
this
it's
stuff.
probably because it's a combo of horror and chick lit, meaning that it's it has the romantic elements, and I kind of picture it as like the perfect beach read. So you can have that, so that chick lit kind of mentality of, here's all this information about these people,
Sure.
and here's their life.
Well, you wrote it for women.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason it makes sense is because you, as the author, you have a certain picture in your head, and you want
Yes.
to make sure that the reader gets it as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that does make sense, yeah.
Reading this and knowing you, I don't know you very well, but
Right.
I know you
Yeah.
well enough. Your lead character's name is Maura.
Yes.
And I'm reading, I mean, I'm a short guy, so everybody's big to me. Everybody's an Amazon, you know?
And she is described as an Amazon, and
and she-
I've been described as an Amazon.
Well, and that's what I said. How autobiographical is
Well, even
Maura?
worse, her name's Mara Hartwell, and I'm Mary Hart. But as I was telling you earlier, before this, she had a different name from the start, and then I met someone and who had that same name, and I hated that person. And I don't hate anyone. Like I have resting smile face, so it's just my my personality. But this person just rubbed me the wrong way, and I said, she can't be the lead of my book. That's not okay.
I'm not happy with that.
No.
Yeah.
So Maura is definitely, there are some elements of her that are autobiographical. There's some that are from people who I know.
Okay.
And I've had so many people ask me, okay, so it's you. Like, is this you? And I said, no, it's not. A, I'm not an event planner. B, I didn't get trapped in a haunted house, I promise, that I'm aware of it.
Well, you're not
So
an
there
event
are
planner.
definitely elements to it, yes.
Well, you're not an event planner, but you work for a Bride magazine.
Exactly.
So you went to a lot
yes.
of events.
Yes, I did.
So that's where you got all your research and
Right, and from talking to all of the different vendors and talking about their parties and those mashed potato bars, and which had to make its way into the book.
how about all those lovers that Maura had?
No.
Actually, she didn't
She
have a
actually,
lot.
no, she only had Spencer, the complete jerk, yeah. And I think every woman out there has a Spencer.
I bet you they do.
Yeah.
And guys, not Spencer.
Oh, yeah, no,
but-
you have
Yeah.
Stacy.
Yeah, Patricia. We'll come up with
Exactly, I
something.
figured some name, S, that starts with S, yeah.
Now, based off of what I've been told, this is well detailed, a very detailed book of a certain time frame, a certain era. For example, 1940s era castle, the
Yep.
interiors and the characters and whatnot. Did you have to do a lot of studying to do that, or was this things you already knew in advance? Or?
Some of it was stuff I knew in advance, some of it required a lot of Googling, because I modeled the Adamson mansion, which, hi, Adam's son, why would I not spell it after that? My own son's name is Adam, and that was basically modeled after the Crane Estate in Ipswich, which is, it was kind of, that's where I got the idea from. But then I kind of had to make it a little bit bigger to put in the ballroom and put in this really grand ballroom, which is the main setting. So then I modeled it after the Newport mansions as well.
I was going to ask you about Newport.
Yeah, I love Newport. So I
Right.
took a trip down there. I'd been there many times. So I took a trip down and took a look at the details a little closer, and then did some research into what that would have been like back in the 1920s and the 1940s. So, for example, there's a key part of the story that talks about a marble floor that became parquet. So I had to make sure that could have happened in the 1940s, or where the balustrades would have been for the staircase. And so there's a lot of online research.
Well, I was going to mention the floors because you pay special attention.
Yes,
to them.
oh yes I do, yeah. There's a reason for that, yeah.
Okay. Your heroine, she's a bit of a flawed woman. She was weak, but you managed to turn her into a pretty strong
Oh yes.
woman. And we get glimpses of her weakness, especially when she's talking to
When she's
Spencer.
talking to Spencer, yeah.
You just think, why is she doing this?
Yeah.
And she thinks, why am
Oh,
I
yeah.
doing this? But she does come to understand that she's better than he perceives her to be.
Yes, that's the key.
How difficult was that part of her character? Did you write?
That was super easy, actually.
Was it really?
Oh yeah, I mean, every woman I know has had that kind of struggle, and some guy in her life who treated her like dirt, basically, and she wonders, why am I with this guy? And as you grow up over the years, you kind of realize I'm a little bit stronger than that. And I mean, I've had that happen to myself. And
I was gonna ask,
yeah, I
okay,
mean, it's
yeah.
basically based on reality from a while ago. And you have that guy who just isn't the right one, but you think he should be. And so the fact that she's able to overcome that, it was taken directly from my own past.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe I'm stating the obvious, but I would guess that it's really important for the readers that your lead character is a strong woman.
Yes, oh, absolutely. I mean, because they have to be able to find that strength. And if I've heard from some of my friends, some people, that this book actually helped them to realize that a guy they were with wasn't right for them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So very important. So it's just
Yeah.
or it just kind of helped them look back at past relationships of someone they were kind of still lingering onto, and saying, "Huh, you know what? He's Spencer. I don't want that in my life. I want him gone."
Good for
So,
you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for them.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I mean, just that alone made me happy I wrote the book.
Yeah, nice. Now, obviously it's a romance, but there's supernatural involved
Yes.
as well, or more specifically paranormal,
Yep.
paranormal romance. How much of the book involves that versus the romance and vice versa?
Probably about a quarter to half of the book, because the book is basically, it's set in this haunted house that they don't know is haunted. She goes to with her team, who it's Maura, her best friend Kitty, who she works with, Travis, who's another coworker, and then Ryan, who's kind of a love interest. And they all meet up at the house to plan this big event. And when they get there, they are meeting in one of the rooms, and a painting falls, and there's this big horrifying message on the wall behind them in blood. And then the doors slam, and then they're stuck in the house. They can't get out. And Ryan does construction. He should be able to get out of that house, or like unlock something, or the window, something. They can't get out. They're trapped. So then psychic energy comes back from the past, from the 1920s and 1940s, scenes that happened in that house come
Like
to
the
life in front of
chandelier
them.
coming down.
Exactly, yes. Or people showing up. You know, the actual things that happened back in the 1920s and 1940s come to life right in front of them. And the walls change and shift. So there are definitely ghosts and there's basically some possession going on as well.
Nice. Now, you said earlier that you pretty much have a smile on your face at all
Oh yeah,
times.
all the time.
So obviously, one thing I assume is important to your book is, if not comedic things, at least light fare or
Yes.
happiness or things that are fun. So how did you involve that into your story? Because comedy, they say, is even harder to write than horror
yeah.
or other things. So
Yeah.
explain that.
Sure. The people who know me well, when they've read this, they said they read it in my voice, because I'm always cracking jokes here and there, etc. And just things that I say or have said, they can see the humor in it. So that there's just, by default, the jokes come into it. So there are just little sarcastic quips, or just humorous moments, or Maura arrives at the house and does a yes, yes, yes chant from Daniel Bryan, the WWE wrestler, and because she's so excited that she's there. So, and she gets caught, which is embarrassing. But it's one of those, just, you have to have humor. It's so important, at least to me.
Nice.
Let's just get a little bit away from the book.
Sure.
You chose to self-publish this.
Yes, I did.
How come?
There was definitely a reason for it. I had put it out to 2 literary agents, I think. Didn't hear back from one at all. Didn't hear, the other one just wasn't interested at that time, which is fine. It's not the right book for everyone, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But what I really wanted was, I viewed it as I wanted to make it a Father's Day gift for my dad, because he and my mom made it
cute.
so, they were such a strong part of my upbringing for reading, like just instilling that love of reading in me from an early age.
Wow, that's
and
something,
horror.
yeah.
So what I did was, I decided, you know what, I really just want this to be the gift for my dad for Father's Day. So I self-published it, got one of the advanced reading copies, and gave it to him as the Father's Day
How do
present.
you react?
He loved it. And he loves that he has the advanced reader copy before I caught some things that I needed to change in them. So he thinks that's amazing, and I'm sure he's going to try and sell it on eBay at some point as the version that has the names wrong in some places, and yeah. But he loved it.
Was it pretty involved? I mean, did you have to learn?
Oh,
how
no,
to do
I
this?
just went on to, I have done a lot of online coding for newsletters to produce
Your
HTML
background.
newsletters.
Yes.
Exactly. I used to do, production for pages and stuff. So this is not a problem at all. I just went on, CreateSpace for Amazon and
Yep.
uploaded the Word file and took a look at the template, and that took the most time, was just going through that Word template and saying, oh, okay, I had written this whole thing out, so now I have to go back in there to the Word doc and space things and make sure that they're correct and down a certain amount of lines.
Yep.
So that was the biggest, and then figuring out a cover.
How was the cover? How hard was that?
That wasn't difficult. It was one of the
Excuse me.
images that they had there, and it worked really well with the whole event planning setting. And plus, it's pink, and I love pink. So
Now, let me ask you this. Your influences, obviously,
Yeah.
it's romance, it's supernatural,
Yeah.
or paranormal romance.
Absolutely.
Is there specific authors or movies or things of either genre or the paranormal romance genre itself that influenced you?
Yes, there's a author called Nora Roberts who also writes
Oh,
under
very
J.D. Robb.
popular.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
Yeah,
He's very
and I
famous.
love both of those types of books that she writes, the mystery procedurals back down and back. Yeah, no, I'm going back to the future, apparently. It's set in the way future with flying cars. And there's also then her Nora Roberts side, which also has, just love stories that always have some kind of magical, mystical element to them. I really love that. Then there are movies such as The Witches of Eastwick, which was filmed at the Crane Estate that modeled after this. But my biggest influence for this was actually 1950s, 1960s music. Because I always tend to listen to the oldie station when I am writing or editing, even for work. Not right now at work. Right now I'm listening to like DMX and Kanye West. But for when I'm
Yeah.
editing and writing at home, I'm
That's
listening.
not 80s.
No, that's definitely not. No, I'm listening to 1950s and songs like Lenny Welch's "Since I Fell for You" or the Beatles' "If I Fell" or
Great
there were
song.
yeah, I love all of those songs, and they're just something about a lot of them that kind of struck me for the scene that I was writing at the time, and it would come up as the perfect time.
Now, why don't you read some for us? Why don't you
Sure.
give us a little taste?
Here's where I promise not to swear, because there are some swears in the book, and I will go over them. I promise.
Line them out.
Yes, exactly. What I'm going to is that basically, like I said, Maura, Kitty, Travis, and Ryan are trapped in the house, and at this time, Kitty and Maura are going back into the ballroom, which is where the chandelier fell back in the 1940s and killed a couple, but no one knew who touched it, and they said the room has been haunted ever since. They tried to get out of there before. They couldn't, and they tried all the windows, and at one point, Maura threatened to basically take Kitty's high heel shoe and crash it through the window. So they are now walking back in. They've left Ryan and Travis to go explore another part of the house to try and find their way out. So chapter 12. Kitty and I walked out of the kitchen. As we entered the foyer to pass underneath the columns of the grand staircase, I couldn't resist going to recheck the entrance doors. I ran over to try them again, hoping they'd miraculously open this time. Nope, still stuck shut. I am so taking my heel to that window if that ballroom exit door doesn't open, said Kitty, as we left the foyer. Ryan can do whatever he wants if he thinks that. She stopped talking, as we both stared at the sight before us. The wall that previously featured those exquisite floor-to-ceiling windows was now an exact replica of the other walls in the room, with just gold paneling and not a window to be found. There were windows there before, right? I asked Kitty. Please tell me you're seeing this too. Where'd they go? What is this house doing to me? Am I losing my mind? I thought in the kitchen that a wall had moved briefly and changed color, but this is something entirely different. Okay, if you're losing your mind, said Kitty, I am right there with you, sporting a hopefully blinged out white jacket in the loony bin, sister. Although, minus that kitchen wall thing, because I didn't see that. I have no idea what you're talking about there. But this one's right here, and I see it in its full freaky display of change. As we continued to look at what used to be windows, I felt slightly nauseated again. I think I should have had more than coffee for breakfast. I'm feeling kind of woozy and sick. Okay, that's weird, said Kitty. I am too. Is your vision also feeling a bit off? Did this also used to be a fun house where the floors moved and Wilford, the butler of the house, forgot to mention that part? I turned my head very, very slowly to try and ward off the nausea and realized that things actually were changing right around us. The parquet floor had reverted back to its former marble, the tables were all upright and covered in linen, and most notably, there were two women, an older woman and a woman in her 20s, now having a tense discussion in the center. Whoa, yelped Kitty, walking over to the women. Where did you two come from? And more importantly, how did you get in here? Because we need a way out. Hey, pay attention, I'm talking to you. Kitty went to grab the arm of the older woman and was startled when her hand went straight through that woman's arm. She then tried with the younger woman, and the same thing happened. Okay, why can't they hear me, and why can't I touch them? Asked Kitty. I'm going to go with hoping that this isn't something like that movie The Others, which would make us the ghosts here, I said. Is it possible they're ghosts? We haven't time traveled or anything, right? Although if we had, we would be able to interact and touch people, so it can't be that. At least according to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure in Doctor Who. What is going on here? Oh my gosh, said Kitty. Wait, I think I know. One of my fellow dancers is big time into ghosts. Seriously, don't look at me like that. She's created her own Ghostbusters-like team. It does haunted house tours. Anyway, she told me about something called psychic energy. It's when something traumatic happens at a house. The energy is captured by the house and is then replayed at any time over and over in a loop. That's gotta be what we're seeing. We're viewing some moment from the house's past, and it's decided to go full production mode by basically making it look like the house did at the time the event occurred, right down to the windows now back to being a wall. Okay, I'm not too thrilled with being the quite literally captive audience for this show, I scoffed. But since we're stuck here, let's see what we can learn from listening to these two. Maybe we'll hear something that will help get us out of here. We walked closer to the women, who were still speaking tersely to each other. The old woman had a long, thin nose, full lips, and dark hair that was fashioned in smooth, swept-back rolls, along with forward roll bangs, a style popular in the 1940s. While the younger woman had long, soft red curls, along with stunning chiseled cheekbones and Cupid's bow lips on her beautiful but upset face. But Mother, I love him, said the younger woman. He's all that matters to me, and if I can't be with him and have to marry that horrible old man, I don't want to live. Dorothy, you listen to me, said her mother. Raymond is only 10 years older than you. That age difference isn't that fast. When I married your father, he was 12 years older than me, and look at how happy we are. Yes, Mother, I know, said Dorothy, but he's father, and he's so wonderful, and he always tells us the most wonderful stories. Raymond is just so dull and boring. Plus, my heart belongs to Walter. I know he's not rich like Raymond is, and I know what happened. Yes, it hurt me at the time, but now I don't care. I'm sure Walter could explain it all if I can just talk to him. He's who will make me happy. And then there's... Oh, no, said her mother in a lower voice. Keep your voice down. Don't even speak about that, as no one is to know. You will continue not speaking to Walter, put on a smile, marry Raymond, and then he will use his money to help save our house. Oh, you don't care about my happiness at all. All you care about is this house, sobbed Dorothy. Well, I guess the show's wrong. Not everyone loves Raymond, laughed Kitty, and then quickly stopped. Sorry, when I'm nervous, I make jokes. And hearing that the guy Dorothy doesn't love is named Raymond brought that straight to mind. So I couldn't resist lightening the mood. Thanks for trying to crack me up, I smiled at Kitty. Wait a minute. So her name's Dorothy? She must be that little toddler in that family picture, which means that's Emma, her mother, with her. Holy crap, I wonder if this is why Emma looks so miffed in that portrait. Okay, Maura, said Kitty. When I saw that picture, everyone looked happy in it. Is this one of those houses changing things that you saw that I didn't? That'd be a weird one, but I guess that could be anything possible in this house. Emma was happy the first time I saw the portrait too, I said, but when I saw it today, Emma was almost scowling. Okay, that's messed up, frowned Kitty. It's like this whole house is impacted by whatever happened. But this happened so long ago, I said. None of those people could still be around to write a message that we saw on the wall behind the photo, could they? What I really want to know is who she wound up with, said Kitty. Was it Raymond or Walter or some unknown bachelor number 3? Speaking of the bachelor, please don't tell me she didn't wind up with Juan Pablo. He's not okay. But seriously, I can't believe she actually want to be with Walter despite my joke about Raymond earlier.
You gotta finish it up soon.
Yep, if he made her upset, it sounds like there was good reason. Plus, that's such an old man's name. And then they keep talking, and Dorothy decides to marry Raymond, and then they walk out, and the nauseated feeling hits Kitty again, and they disappear. The nauseated feeling hits Kitty and Maura again, and the room appears back as they were. And they're still trapped in the house, and they have no information further on how to get out.
And there's still a good half the book to
Oh,
go.
yes, oh yeah, definitely there is.
Oh, that was good. That was great. And it's funny because I was remembering reading that
Good.
scene, that chapter,
Yeah.
as you were. So it was pretty fresh in my mind, and you
Perfect.
paint a really good picture.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, we went way over on time,
Oh, gosh.
but it was enjoyable, and I don't regret a minute of it. So thank you very
Same.
much.
Thank you.
Yes,
Perfect.
yes,
Thanks,
and we'll be
thanks,
seeing
Tony.
you at
Thanks, Phil.
tomorrow night in Concord,
Yes,
Massachusetts.
absolutely.
Where you're going to do even larger reading, I
Yes,
assume. Yeah.
absolutely. Probably the same thing, but maybe I might do the kitchen part before it, just to get a little bit more atmosphere to it. Or
Good for
something
you.
else entirely.
Good for you. Well, again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to be back in 1 minute. Well, that was a lot of fun.
Indeed.
Yeah,
indeed,
Mary's
yeah.
a great lady, a lot of fun to talk to. She's a huge promoter of the horror genre. She goes to all the signings and all the book release parties, and I've seen her many, many times, and I look forward to seeing her again.
Yeah, I'm glad you invited her on. I didn't know too much about her, and just became friends with her on Facebook a couple days ago when we determined to bring her on the show, and so I met a new friend, so that's great.
Well, I'm not a real In fact, this is only the second paranormal romance I've ever read. So it's opened up my eyes, and I hope Mary has terrific success with this and
Yeah.
continues to write.
Absolutely.
Thank you, and we'll be back next month, and Sydney should be joining us. And as I mentioned in the introduction, we should have some
special
fun.
stuff, right?
Some
Yeah,
fun,
yeah.
yes. Thank you, and good night.